This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library
enough. You can get the Truefire All Access Pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for.
A few months ago, when there was some chatter going on around the Helix Stadium, Cliff from Fractal, so Cliff is the mastermind behind Fractal Audio, who have really been at the top of the modelling game since like 2005, 2000, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. But, you know, they've continued pushing the envelope forward, and they've also never really gone down the route of what most other companies do, which is, you know, getting these devices in as many shops all around the world as possible. Fractal have stayed direct. You've got Fractal Audio, and you've got G66 who distribute for Fractal Audio in Europe. But anyway, there's been a little bit more buzz around this and talk around the next generation of Fractal, and I thought, first of all, in this video I'm going to be using the Axe FX 3, which I think stands up incredibly well. One of the things with Fractal is they get updates through their whole entire life, you know, and they're meaningful updates. So Dynacabs came along here, there's over 300 amps in here, there's new effects, so just like this week, surround delay was added. It's always getting better, but what could we expect from the next generation of Fractal devices? I think is kind of interesting to think about, especially now that this is getting towards sort of like 7 years, is it? So this was the first big announcement that came relatively recently, which was there are no plans to offer NAM in this current generation of products, but next generation products will support NAM. So next generation products, I think this is like the second time that this has been mentioned that I've seen sort of get out there a little bit, but they're going to be supporting NAM. So that's one of the things that the Axe FX 3, FM9, FM3 won't be getting, but next generation will support NAM. And around that, he also said white box modeling will still be the primary focus. NAM will be included for those cases where a model isn't feasible. And then there was another post which I think got edited, but essentially this is an all new platform, standard IRs, will be 170 milliseconds long, user adjustable if you want shorter. Ultra res has been deprecated as it's no longer needed. I don't want to turn this into an announcement or a feature request thread, but it's a significant leap from the current products, which is incredible when you think about like how powerful these things still look relative to like a quad cortex or a helix or other things. ToneMaster Pro, like the Fractal stuff has held up incredibly well still. I'd love to share the specs, but I don't think that's prudent. It's feature rich and has gobs of processing power and memory. Of course, it has wireless and USB-C and touchscreen and onboard SSD and etc, etc. It's exactly what you would expect given the technology available at this time. So that's really interesting to me. So can we expect, based on what Cliff is literally saying, that there is going to be a Fractal device coming, whichever, I don't know exactly when this might be as well, because I'm presuming that Fractal, I think, tend to do like a pre-announcement, and then you get on a pre-order and a wait list and that sort of stuff, right? That's typically the way that Fractal works. So as he's said there, it's not an announcement, but I think it's kind of an interesting thing, particularly when we think about like the Helix Stadium this year coming out as well, which is sort of like the newest generation product. Like even before that's out, now Fractal have said, we're actually working on something new as well. And I think that might give some people some pause, because you're not, I don't think, there's not going to be many people, I would have thought, that would buy both. But for me personally, so I gig the Fractal FM9. At home, I use Helix Native most of all. If I was, going to be totally honest and say to you, right, I know that I don't know, but I'm going to assume that potentially within about a year or so, there's going to be a Fractal device with a touchscreen that can run NAM profiles, and presumably is going to be the most powerful thing on the market, and probably by some margin. Like the Axe FX 3, when this came out, was ultra powerful, and still to this day remains incredibly competitive even all of these years on. I don't think anything's really surpassed it in terms of processing power, and certainly not in terms of tone. So yeah, that to me does throw a bit of a spanner in the works, and I'm really interested to see over whatever amount of time it is. As I say, I absolutely know nothing about this. I've just seen some of these posts that have flashed by on forums, and it's kind of like, that does, I think, throw a spanner in the works. So, to conclude, Helix Stadium is imminent, right? I think it's probably within about a week or two that we could see those start shipping for everyone. There's already a couple of units out there in the wild with people. And Fractal kind of said, look, we're also working on stuff. And it looks like a touchscreen device with loads and loads of processing power, which is usual for Fractal. A touchscreen device, though, that's really quite a big step forward, because the devices prior to this didn't have color screens. The Axe FX 3 and the FM3 were a huge jump from what came before, but could we now be looking at a Fractal device with the most advanced UI that Fractal have ever done? I think that's a really interesting prospect, because one of the things that I've seen has turned people off about Fractal is that they're kind of complicated to use in some ways, and it takes time to get to know them. If Fractal have sort of made more gains in the UI space as well, like doing a touchscreen device, I think they could absolutely blow quite a lot of stuff out of the water. And particularly at a time, this is now not talking about like Helix and stuff like that, but other devices are, I think, getting to be known a little bit, certainly amongst the pros, as being potentially a little bit unreliable. Fractal was always alongside Kemper like the de facto touring piece of equipment. Something came along and shifted things a little bit, but I think people are sort of switching back. Certainly people that I know are having issues or every single person that I has known has had issues with one specific device, who I won't mention because, you know, I don't want to get sued. But, you know, if Fractal have something that's kind of like equivalent again in the space, or it's like, actually this is kind of now a little bit more simplified to use, or a bit more user friendly, without necessarily getting rid of the things that Fractal does that are so amazing, then I think you could really see quite an interesting shake-up again in the marketplace, because Fractal has always been, I think, the big dog. So yeah, I just wanted to put that in a video, because I think it might have been missed by quite a lot of people, especially when there's other devices getting talked about. But Fractal, something coming at some point that I think could actually be a huge step forward, particularly for Fractal, but in the modeling space in general, to have the big dog doing stuff again. Interesting. I don't mean again, but, you know, their next new generation Star Trek. Cheers for stopping by.